Hey there! Tired of spending forever seeding nursery trays by hand? Meet the Quick Click Drop Seeder. It makes seeding trays super fast. Just a click and you're done. You can seed multiple trays in no time, making your nursery work way easier. Plus, it works with paper pot trays, microgreens, and any other tray that you have. Say goodbye to tedious seeding and hello to more time on the farm. Join hundreds of other farmers and try the Quick Click Seeder today. Available at shop.moderngrower.co or using the link below. Knowing what you know, what are some of the misconceptions from an agricultural producer standpoint around clay?
First of all, clay has several meanings. It's defined sometimes as a particle size, just any particles that are less than what we call 2 microns, which is a little almost too small to see, okay? But it also has a meaning in terms of mineralogy, the chemistry and the structure of the atoms that make up that clay particle. And there is a whole large family of different types of clay minerals. And they have different properties. And depending on the amount of clay and the type of clay that you have, can have a big influence on soil properties. So I think recognizing that clays are actually minerals. That means they have a 3-dimensional structure. The atoms are not just randomly scattered around. They are in very specific structure, and that impacts the properties of the clay. And another area where people probably don't fully appreciate or often appreciate is that clays evolve with time on a grand scale. And they are hugely influenced by climate. So if you go down into the tropics, you'll find very different types of clays in the soil down there than you will up in more temperate regions. Here in the Midwestern part of the US, you find what we call smectites, 2-to-1 phyllosilicates. They have the structure of mica, flat, and they're made of silicon, aluminum, magnesium. But you go down into the tropics and you find a whole different group of clays that are dominated by iron and aluminum oxides. And they have evolved as the soil weathers through the influence of climate. Certain cations are leached out of the clays. The clays begin to structurally reorient, and you end up moving towards these oxides. And there is a systematic pattern or process by which this evolution or weathering of clay minerals occurs.
Does that aging of clay affect agricultural productivity of soils? In other words, if you had a predominance of a certain type of clay in a soil, could you suppose that all else being equal, that soil may be more productive than a different soil, a different evolution of
clays have a big influence, but there are also other factors that influence the productivity of the soil. Clays are just one of the factors. But yes, the type of clay matters. So here again, in more temperate climates, we have, and we mentioned these smectites, this mica-like clays, and they tend to have high ability to retain cations, a term called cation exchange capacity. On the other hand, if you go down to the tropics, the oxide clays, iron, aluminum, oxyhydroxide phases have a much lower ability to retain cations. And also they influence the pH buffering capacity. And I don't want to get too deep in the terminology here, but pH is how acid or basic the soil is. And if you add some hydrochloric acid or more acid to the system, how rapidly that pH changes. The clays that we have down in the tropics are very unbuffered. They can become very acidic very quickly, whereas the clays that we have in temperate regions resist change in pH. So a farmer adds ammonium forms of fertilizer, very critical for crop growth. Nitrogen exists in ammonium and nitrate forms. And that ammonium tends to acidify the soil. As it is transformed, the soils in the temperate regions resist that acidification. They still need lime periodically, but the soils in the tropics will acidify very rapidly and often are already acidified. So yes, it makes a big difference in the ability to hold nutrients and in the influence on soil pH, soil reaction. Sometimes pH is called soil reaction. And those have a big influence on crop productivity.
Hello, growers. If you enjoy podcasts like this one, tune into my podcast In Search of Soil on YouTube for a deep dive into the mysteries beneath our feet. Join me as I explore topics such as mycorrhizal fungi, mushrooms, compost, biochar, and more. It's a soil nerd's dream. We're going deep. We're talking to scientists about all things soil related. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or a gardener just starting out, our podcast has something for everyone. Listen in and grow with us. Check out In Search of Soil on YouTube.